What's up, y'all? Thank you for joining into the next video in the motorcycle road trip series. This is a 2004 Katana 750 that I purchased for $1,000 off of a young lady on Facebook. I did not get this one off of Facebook Marketplace like I usually do. This one I was able to get from a private motorcycle group on Facebook. I just posted on there that I was looking for old bikes that don't run that I could fix up and road trip. Shared my channel with them. So this is the first bike that I got off of that group. It's been pretty productive for me in the past. So this one was $1,000. It was a great buy. This one will only run with the choke on, and it will not run very well at all. I think it's kicking over on maybe 2, maybe 3 cylinders sometimes. So the story with this is that this young lady took the carburetors apart and she did not put them back together correctly or didn't balance them correctly, and it just never ran right after that. I also suspect that some of the jets are clogged up on it. She said that it was sitting for about a year. I think it's probably been about 2. She went out and bought a new motorcycle and, didn't ride this one. She also didn't flip the title into her name, so that made things kind of difficult with the title. It took me about a month after initially going and looking at the motorcycle and agreeing to a price before I was able to actually get it home and start working on it. This is a Suzuki, and as we all know, Suzuki electronics they're not great. That is one of the main worries that I have, because if a stator or a regulator rectifier goes out a long way from home, it's very, very difficult to get spare parts. Regulator rectifier, you could probably modify one from a car and get that to work correctly and be fine. But if the stator goes, it's going to be a huge problem, because it's not like they stock stators for these on any motorcycle store shelf. These are an actual or only item. And in general, katanas just have a negative reputation in the motorcycle community. And I don't know if the people that normally buy them just treat them like garbage because they were on the cheaper end of the spectrum whenever these were sold. They weren't taken very good care of. That could be the case. Or these could just be hunks of garbage. I don't know. It's pretty rashed up. It's definitely been dropped a couple of times. We're going to have to modify the handlebar situation to get the ergonomics where we want it to. But yeah, it's going to be pretty tough to take a sport bike or a sport bike styled bike and make it into something resembling a sport tour. The plan is to ride this all the way to Jacksonville, Florida. Should be roughly around 2,000 miles, which is, I think, where I'm going to start to keep the length of these videos at. So we'll see. I think it'll be good. I think that this is actually a particularly good katana because it's only got about 7,500 miles on it. But yeah, I guess we'll see.
And here you can tell that it really wants to start whenever you have the choke on. It sounds like it wants to kick over, but it just doesn't have enough oomph for it. I did eventually get this to kick over, and once I heard it rev up, I knew that we had at least a good base to work with. Unfortunately, it wouldn't keep running once we let go of the throttle, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and get the tank pulled off here. We're going to try and manually push a little bit of gas through here with the bottle and a little bit of air pressure. And all I've got here is a 1-liter bottle of gasoline and a little brass tubing fixed to the bottom of it, just to force as much gasoline into the carbs as I can, because what may be happening is the floats might be stuck, so we want to try and knock those loose if at all possible. And I'm adding a little bit of air pressure with my mouth here to try and knock those floats loose. Unfortunately, that was a no-go with trying to knock those floats loose, so I think we have a much deeper problem because it's not even acting like it wants to start now. Let's go ahead and get this thing torn down a little bit. We really need to take a look inside those carburetors, but before we get it all the way torn down, let's just feed it a little bit of ether and just make sure we know what we've got here. And I gotta tell you, that sounded really good. So I think we've actually got a pretty good motorcycle here once we can get this fuel delivery issue figured out. But unfortunately, we're going to come to find out how difficult carburetor issues can really be. Now, this Katana has a pretty standard 4-carburetor setup that you'll normally see from pre-fuel injected sport bikes of this area. Typically anything from the early 80s all the way up to probably I'd say about 2005, 2006 when everything switched over to fuel injection. This was a pretty standard setup. Now, when it comes to 4-carb setups, you have to have everything perfect for the bike to be able to run correctly at all. If you have it off even a little bit, your bike's going to run like absolute garbage. And unfortunately, with these 4-carb setups, it's really difficult to get them exactly right if you're unfamiliar with them. One very important thing I want you to note as you're watching this is that not every one of these carburetors is leaking fuel whenever we turn it upside down. Only 3 of the carburetors are actually leaking. So what that means is that one of these float levels are out of adjustment. And if they're out of adjustment, it's not going to let fuel into the carb, or if they're way out of adjustment, they're going to let way too much fuel into the carb. And here you can look down into the top of the carburetors, and you can see that it doesn't really look too bad. They're not too gunked up. The main jet here, and this thing looks perfectly clean. I don't see any issues with it. These are the idle jets, and they control all of the fuel going into the bike at idle, or whenever it's starting. So of course it didn't want to start with these all clogged up. And here we're just going to relax a little bit and take our time getting the rest of this carburetor cleaned out. The rest of it wasn't bad at all. It was pretty clean. It was really just the corrosion inside those jets. Here's an up-close view on how these floats work. On the silver tab on the bottom, there is a little tiny valve underneath of it. And whenever that bobber goes up and down based on the level of fuel that's in the carburetor, it opens and closes that valve. We're going to go ahead and get the carburetors and airbox slapped back together into this bike. Unfortunately, it was kind of a pain because the carburetor boots that these slide into, unfortunately, are rock solid because, of course, they're 20 years old. And I don't want to spend the money on buying new carburetor boots when these are perfectly fine. I did do a little bit of work to these carbs off screen, mainly just cleaning and going through and adjusting the float levels. The float levels go all the way down to, half of a millimeter in some spots. So I went ahead and did that off camera and just saved you guys the boredom of it. And this is a huge moment here where we get to find out if it actually runs. Here's where I started to run into some really big issues. So when you're balancing the carburetors, the engine's basically sucking air in through the carburetors. And each of these needles should be in the exact same spot, but they are not. And no matter how I adjusted these carburetors, they would not come around. No matter what I did, I could not get cylinder number 1 to come around and have the same amount of vacuum as all the rest of them. When she had reassembled these carburetors, she got these springs over the tabs, and whenever she did that, it wouldn't allow any adjustment to occur. Once I got that situation ironed out, I went ahead and balanced the carbs as normal, and now it's running perfect. Now that we know that we've got a running motorcycle, we can tackle our second biggest item, which is to adjust some of the ergonomics on this bike. Because I am not going to ride 2,000 miles hunched over and having my back snap in half. The main point of contention is these handlebars. They're way too low, they're way too far forward, so I've got a set of dirt bike bars laying around, and we're going to go ahead and throw those on. Unfortunately, it's going to require some custom mounting to be able to do that, so we're going to fabricate some brackets up here just to get this thing good enough for the trip. Of course, the first thing we got to do here is get this disassembled so we can go ahead and build our new parts. These fork adjusters had gotten pretty stiff over the years and full of rust, so we're going to go ahead and see if we can get these loosened up a little bit so we can firm up the front of this, because we're going to have a lot of weight on this bike. Now you can see exactly what we're looking for as far as raising the bars and bringing them back. I didn't have any scrap metal laying around the place, and the only thing that I could find that might be suitable is these metal bottle openers that I accidentally brought home from work. Just going to take a couple of quick measurements here and start cutting them up. And this is just to show you guys exactly what I've got to work with. A lot of people have, these big crazy garages full of tools. I have a stump and a grinder that I inherited. I'm going to take a couple more measurements here freehand. I don't really have a tool for this, so I'm just gonna guess. We're going to do our best to get these drilled out correctly, but these are stainless steel, and the bits that I used are off of Amazon, so it really took a long time to get these cut through. We're going to go ahead and do our test fit here, and look how perfectly that fits the first time. If that's not worth a follow, I don't know what is. Now that we've got our brackets made, you can really start to see how this is going to work. There are 4 mounting points on the top of the forks, and the bolts on the top are going to go through the upper side, and the bolts on the bottom are going to come up from the bottom and into the risers. Now these mounting points are actually rubber grommets, and they're quite large and beefy, but I've never had rubber mounted bars before in my life, so I wonder how much this is going to wiggle around. Now we're really cooking with gas. You can see exactly what I was going for the riding position. I'm going to be able to sit upright on these long rips down the highway, and it's not going to be that uncomfortable. My legs are going to be bent a lot, more than I'd like them to be, but it's not going to be terrible. There is a bit of movement with the bars, considering that those mounting points are actually rubber, but it's not too bad. However, I think as that rubber starts to break in a bit, I think they're going to get more wobbly. This is just a little windshield extender that I bought for $20 on Amazon. I was really skeptical as to how well this was going to work because it only extends it about 3 to 4 inches. But it really made a big difference in the end. That couple of inches extra that sticks out over the top off of the stock windshield really did a whole lot more than what I expected it to. A lot of people on the forums said that the wind buffeting was going to cause this windshield to crack pretty quickly, but I didn't notice anything like that. It worked out fantastic. Now we're pretty much ready to go. Went ahead and slapped the tank back on and the seat, and we're pretty much ready to hit the road. When this was crashed before, it got quite a bit of breakage on the back end of the bike. What I decided to do was some zip tie stitching, and all you really do for that is poke a bunch of holes in the back of this and then thread zip ties through it to give it a little bit of strength. And all I'm really doing here is I'm heating up a screwdriver and poking it through the plastic and sticking zip ties through it and zipping them closed. It probably would be better to use a drill and drill holes through here, but yeah, I thought this was a lot more fun. And here you can see the finished product, and it looks terrible. But it doesn't need to look good, it just needs to work.
Alright fellas, so here's what's up. I'm getting ready to leave. It's about 3 o'clock on Wednesday. 3 o'clock on Thursday. I'm way behind schedule. But here's the deal. I have saved all of my 1s and 5s from tip money for the past several months. So what I'm going to do is go to the bank and cash this stuff in. And whatever this is, and this is all singles, whatever this is, that's the budget for the trip. So I have no idea how much is in this stack. If you have a guess, go ahead and drop that down in the comments.
And this is the setup here. There's nothing crazy. I have a $15 USB charger hooked to the battery. I've got a set of soft bags that were maybe $50 off of Facebook Marketplace, and just shoved all my crap into all that.
All right, fellas, just left the bank. We're at $423 is our budget for the trip.
Oh, sailor,
I made it to Louisville, Kentucky, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away from Cincinnati, where I live and where I left from that morning. Unfortunately, the audio was too terrible because the wind was just awful that day. Keep in mind, this is March and it's extremely cold. But the long and the short of it was I made it there with zero problems, and I actually really, really like this bike whenever I did not expect to like it at all. And it was pretty quick. I mean, it wanted to run about 80, 90 miles an hour right at the speed limit all day long, and didn't have any issues with it.
Your eyes are dark, your skin is bright, your clothes are black, and my heart is light. But yours has sunk in deep inside. It's never gone to see the light of your bandit on the run.
This is my buddy Christian and his friend Alex's band that was playing in Nashville that night, so I had to really hurry to get there by 9 o'clock. Unfortunately, I read his text wrong, and I didn't realize that they were the last band on, so I got there about 2 hours too early. Funny story about Christian and Alex is that they used to go to the same bar that I went to, and it's the place where I work at now. And before I actually met them and, kind of realized that we were going to be good friends, they used to show up on like a random Tuesday at 7 o'clock, and they would do nothing but play hardcore death metal the entire time. So for years, I could not stand the sight of them because I would show up and just want to have a nice chill night and maybe read a book, and because it's Tuesday night, right? Like, who plays hardcore death metal, on a Tuesday? Like, it was just crazy. So, but yeah, later on, after I quit drinking, I met up with them, and they were actually some really cool guys. But yeah, it was kind of cool to go down there and, see Christian in his element. I don't really think that he gets a lot of people to come to his shows when they're that far out of state. But the band name is Sea of Treachery, and you guys should check them out.
Alright, y'all, here it is. This is tonight's campsite. I'm not sure if anyone saw me sneak in, but I'm sure we'll find out here shortly. But this is downtown Nashville. I'm actually at the venue right next to a construction site. So I'm hoping no one will bother me until the construction workers get here in the morning. But I don't think anyone from the street can see me right now. I think they can just see my bike, but yeah, I'm not really stoked about the big pile of trash that I'll be sleeping next to, but yeah, here it is. I'll update you guys in the morning, and hopefully everyone's cool. About 10 minutes ago, I saw somebody in one of those windows up there, but which window? That one right there. So I guess we'll see. Wait, no, not that one. That one. Yeah, so I guess we'll find out here shortly. Alright, y'all. So here's where I am. Here's where I am money-wise for the day. So I spent $30 on gasoline and snacks at the gas station. I spent $20 on the venue ticket to see Christian's show. I spent $10 on a calzone,
And then I spent $5 plus tip on a non-alcoholic beer. So I think that is $67 total, which isn't bad for the first day. And honestly, I kind of overspent a little bit. So, but yeah, it's not bad. I've been in this alleyway for about an hour now, and nobody has come to bother me yet, so hopefully that continues. But construction starts at 7 a.m. So hopefully the construction workers actually let me sleep all the way up until when that starts, but we'll see. What's up, y'all? Ended up sleeping at that little spot next to the construction site until about probably about 7:30 this morning. It did kind of suck though. Construction actually started at 6:30 and not 7 or 8 like I had planned. But yeah, it's pretty dope. Woke up, went and hung out at this little park that I'm at. All the construction dudes were super cool though. Didn't have any real issues. They just more or less just pretended like I wasn't even there. But yeah, about to hit the road again for the day now that it's above 50 degrees, and I'll update you later. I've used this campsite on Lake Santitla a couple of times because it's free and you just can't beat it. This place is absolutely gorgeous. Alright, here's what it is, fellas. This is the bed for the evening. And you can see the fireplace way over there. It got down to about 30 degrees that night, and I was absolutely freezing, but this is a wonderful sunrise. Hey, y'all, what's up? I'm in a little place called Santitla Lake. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not 100% sure. But, yeah, I woke up Saturday morning in Nashville, rode over to Tail of the Dragon, ended up ripping down through there once, going to camp and getting set up. Ended up camping out with 2 total strangers. There was just one campsite left, so we all kind of crammed into it. And yeah, didn't really have a lot of problems yesterday. I was worried about a couple of things on the Dragon. For one, I don't know what it is with the Dragon and my rear brake failing, but yeah, I got halfway down again and realized that there's not a single millimeter of pad left on the rear brake. That was completely gone. I didn't realize it until I felt sparks on the back of my ankle that that's what was happening. So, but it wasn't too bad. My front brake's still really good. It's not a big deal to ride home without it. But yeah, I'm kind of stuck in a pickle right now because I have to turn around and go home, even though I'm supposed to be out for 2 or 3 more days, just because there's a huge storm rolling into Cincinnati. Sorry, the wind got kind of crazy there and ruined a bunch of the audio. But yeah, I'm really just talking about, getting sandwiched with the weather. I was going to end up, if I stayed out, spending probably 2, maybe 3 days riding in the clouds and rain. And this was in March. So, you're really looking at riding around wet and, mid 40-degree weather, which, I'm pretty seasoned and grizzled at riding, but yeah, I'm not gonna ride around in that for 2 or 3 days if I can help it. So unfortunately, I had to cut this trip a little bit short, and I ended up heading home, which was only about a 350 mile ride from Eastern Tennessee back to Cincinnati. Of course, I had to hang around a bit and go for some rips up and down the Dragon. This thing was really, really tough to hustle back and forth down the Dragon. As you can tell, it's pretty much all switchback corners, but yeah, it was really tough. The change of directions are pretty aggressive, and this is a fairly heavy bike, especially when it's all loaded up. It really felt like it just wanted to fall over, which it helps with the turn-in, but about mid-corner, it doesn't help that your bags are basically pulling you off the side of the bike. I use the rear brake a lot to turn the bike whenever I'm, diving into a corner. So it was a little bit tough, going up and down that without it. But, the front brake was still really strong. Just had to brake a bit earlier since you don't have, that reliance on the rear brake to help rotate the bike. I did take some time to get the drone out and, take a peek around the place, because it is a really beautiful part of the country, even though it's still not officially spring yet. It's real important for me to take a little bit of time out and actually try and enjoy this a bit more, because I spend so much time and so much effort with, getting all these bikes set up and, finding them and getting them to the house and fixing them up. And, really, it's a lot of work to put these together and, to do these trips. So sometimes I have to force myself to pull over and go, okay, you don't need to make that many miles today. You can sit here and relax and enjoy nature and, take a break for once. In the past, I've been really bad about going more miles. I need to show people, how good of a mechanic I am, and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing and never really relaxing. Fellas, I do have a little bit of a problem right now. So got through Knoxville. I'm just about to Kentucky, but I was going up this really, really long incline for about 2.5, 3 miles, and I had it just, completely wide open in 6. Wasn't going that fast, maybe going 80, 85. And then it just sort of gave up. It didn't shut off or anything. It just acted like it had no power. I got it off the highway, and it kind of felt fine. I think what it might be is that the fuel flow just might not be there to, kind of support how much I'm pushing it, or it might have kinked. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to reprime the fuel system. So right now it's on vacuum operated on reserve. And I'm actually going to flip that to prime. And what that's going to do is that's going to bypass the vacuum operated system, and it's just going to fill everything up. So I did that. And then what I'm going to do is flip it back to res once everything's full. I'll probably let it cool off here for a couple of minutes, but yeah, definitely took me for a loop until I got it off the highway, but let's flip it back on and let's just see if it starts. Yeah, it starts. Seems like it runs fine. Definitely kind of feels like it's tractoring a little bit, but not a lot. So, I don't know. I'll let it cool off for 5 or 10 minutes here, and then we'll hop back on and
and give her another go and see what she does.
Hey, what's up, y'all? It is a couple of days later. I made it home from the Dragon. Didn't have too many problems. I had that small issue with the carbs running dry. I'm not really sure exactly what that was about. I do have a different fuel filter on it than what it comes with stock, so I'm wondering if that fuel filter just didn't have enough flow when it comes to really long heavy drags out in 6th gear with high revs. But I got to tell y'all, I really like this bike. I was really surprised that it ended up being as reliable as it is. I'd always heard that katanas were kind of garbage, that they were just cheap bikes, had really crappy build quality. So I was pretty surprised. It ran fantastic. I wouldn't say it's the most ergonomic because, we had to go through and change the bars to get it to somewhat of a halfway decent riding position. Legs were a little bit cramped, but I have pretty short extremities to begin with anyways. I got short legs and short arms. So I think with a regular person, I think you might end up being a little bit cramped in the leg department, with the pegs situated where they are. But it's a fantastic motorcycle. It's got a great engine. I was really surprised at how well a 4-cylinder air-cooled bike would perform, especially down at the Dragon. By no means a particularly quick bike, but I also never overheated it. Usually you get an air-cooled bike real hot, it starts pinging like crazy, and you can hear the lifters, but this thing runs awesome. This is actually going to be a hard bike for me to sell. I was really surprised, and I really like this bike. You can set it at 90 and just run all day with it. Got pretty good gas mileage, got about 45 miles to the gallon with it completely loaded up with all my gear, which it's not really made to do that. And this thing rips. This is a fantastic bike. I have someone coming to buy this thing tomorrow, and I really just do not want to sell it. This is a great bike. I was worried about the charging system quite a bit because Suzuki's in general just do not have great electronics. And I'm not sure if the electronics are particularly bad or if the people who typically buy these just don't treat their bikes very well because they're, on average for the time period were, one of the cheaper bikes that you could buy. So, but make sure that you like and subscribe because I have the next 4 bikes lined up that we'll be doing trips on. I have a couple of them already in my possession. I've been very lucky to find bikes that haven't made it to Facebook Marketplace or the market in general. I've been very lucky that I just have a lot of friends with motorcycles just laying around that they want to get rid of. Even though they're good bikes, they've just been sitting for long periods of time. Since y'all have been so cool, I'm going to let you check out the next bike that we're going to be fixing up and road tripping, which is a 1985 Honda Goldwing, which I have been absolutely dying to get my hands on for forever. These bikes are so cool and they're so robust. It is the most iconic touring bike that you could get, especially for somebody in my age group. I'm about 38 years old. These things were everywhere when I was a kid because everybody loved to tour on them. So make sure you subscribe so that you can check out the next couple of episodes. My only plan for this year is to just hit it hard and make as many of these bike videos as I possibly can. So if you guys could like, subscribe, maybe even hit the share button, that would be awesome. It would really help me out a ton. But thank you guys. I'll see you in the next one.